Hello and welcome back to the workshop. Today we're going to take a look at the latest layout commission build, Lametton Halt, a slightly larger Cameo box than I'm used to, but nevertheless hopefully full of character and charm. Great Western, Cornish setting with lots of inspiration from the Looe Branch, but sort of juggled together to create a scene that fitted within the space my customer had available, and hopefully will give him many years of happy operation. So we haven't done one of these for a while, have we? So let me bring the camera forward. Let's take a look at some of the constructional items, some of the details, some of the thinking behind different elements, and run a train or two. So taking a sweep around the layout, we've got a small yard with a kickback siding, slightly unlikely, perhaps to have served the lime kiln, the overgrown lime kiln there. And then at this side, a small halt, and the railway disappearing again under another road bridge. This time at the front of the layout here, we have a small waterway, should I say canal, which is inspired by the real Looe Branch. So I mentioned the Looe Branch and the inspiration, and I fully recommend the List Garden Looe Branch, published by Wild Swan, by Jerry Beale. Let's take a look. So this is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see how much you're going to be able to see here. This is St. Keen, and you'll see the halt and the little structure, the platform structure, and the bridge, the overbridge with the two arches. So the canal here, the canal that was built before the railway, ran under that arch and along the front and was overgrown by this stage. So that's the right hand side of the layout. On the left hand side of the layout, that bridge there, Looe Bridge, can you see on the top right there? That was the inspiration for the bridge on the right hand side. And then I mentioned it, we've got a bit of a mix of things going on. The other inspiration was, let me see there, Corsland. So Corsland had a similar layout to St. Keen, but with that little footbridge at the front, which was really quite pretty. So we mixed Corsland and St. Keen and called the layout Lametton. Lametton was a small hamlet which was quite close to the St. Keen's Halt. St. Keen's was only called St. Keen's, I think, because of a local tourist attraction, St. Keen's Well. So taking a look at Looe Bridge, if we like, this and the other road bridge were constructed in foam board, so the foam core with card on the front, easy to work with, easy to glue, and quite sturdy. They're designed so they can be lifted out if they ever need to be, because the wiring is actually tucked around behind there. So they're covered in Slater's material and some scratch built detailing, and painted and weathered, obviously, to fit well with the scene. The track throughout is Pico Code 75, bullhead for the main, with the flat bottom for the turnouts. I prefer the flat bottom turnouts. I find them more reliable, so I always recommend them for smaller layouts like this. You can see the mixture of textures as well in the grass here. I tend to make my static grass up in very small batches as I work through the layout. So as we look in a minute at different areas, you know, I use a Pico scene one, which is a micro one. It's got a tiny little chamber for the grass, and so you're always topping it up as you go, so it's always changing as you take a different sort of pinch of different fibres. So I tend to use 2 and 4 mil fibres from the WWS range, and then you'll see some woodland scenics foliage teased out, dark green teased out there, and applied, sort of give a bit of a scrub look. And then it's forest in a box for the majority of the trees and foliage across the back, although there is some sea moss in there as well. Here in the centre of the layout, we've got the old lime kiln. When I was looking for photos of St Keynes, there had been a lime kiln at the station that was sort of presumably taken apart and used for local building projects over the years. So there wasn't much left by even by the 1930s, I don't think. I've assumed it survived in a slightly more preserved form here and is overgrown. It gives a bit of detail at the back and breaks up the trees that do in reality line a lot of the valley. I mentioned the majority of the trees along the backdrop are the forest in a box from Woodland Scenics, but I do like to add a few scratch-built trees on my own project. So here we've got a twisted wire armature with polyfibre and Woodland Scenics fine turf, I think, leaf applied. It gives a much airier look and obviously allows me to have something a little bit bigger, still obviously much smaller than a real tree, but I'm trying to capture a feel with these layouts, aren't we? A feel and scale, and the proximity between the front and the back of the layout and stuff. You're kind of playing with all of that artistically to give a composition. So yeah, it's much smaller than reality, but hopefully gives a sort of an area feel and a touch of detail, so something to catch the eye as well. Taking a quick look at the halt itself, you'll notice we've got one of those lovely new Model U station name boards, custom name boards that they do for you. Fully recommend them. Just a happy customer. And the Model U lamps as well. The building is scratch built based on photos of the prototype, as is the platform. The platform is styrene. It's been treated with a Gordon Gravit technique. It's gloss grey, gloss number 5, I think, dusted with talc whilst it's wet. The posts along the back are the Pico ones, and it's got some very fine wire that I found in the box threaded between them. Someone suggested I used sort of that elastic microfiber stuff. I can't quite remember what it's called, which gives obviously a nice straight finish, and also it withstands knocks and things. But whilst if that's what you want to use, I have absolutely no sort of negative comments for you, but I quite like the hand look, the slightly bent and not quite perfect look. I think it works better in this context. Again, you'll notice the forest and the canopy behind, and another scratch-built tree. And the bridge on this side was built in the same manner. We'll talk about the canal in a moment. So this little collection of detail was kind of hinted at in the original concept sketch for the layout, because this was actually originally a design I drew up with my customer based on his requirements. But it's been fleshed out using a variety of scratch-built and out-of-the-box parts. I think this is a model scene kissing gate thing. I don't know quite what it was from. I can't remember. It's a set, I think, with stars and gates and stuff. You got a couple of signs from the which come with those Pico or Wills or Ratio. I can't remember the fence posts on the back of the platform. It comes with those. A bit of the spear point fencing from them as well, along with the ground frame, the scratch built bridge, and all of them kind of put together in that setting like that, inspired by Causland, with the dog leg in that setup. It's a bit peculiar, isn't it? You'd be thinking, oh, why didn't you just have a gate at the end of the bridge and go straight across the track? But I quite liked the idea of that gate that restricted or slowed down access across the railway, and it gives an interruption to the scene as well, and it leads our eye in as if we were the passengers sort of wandering across to the platform, but it makes us pause. I think, I might be over-egging this, but it makes us pause and imagine standing at that spear point fencing and watching a train go by. And I'll just mention the Canal, or the former Canal at this point. I'm not a big fan of those sort of resins and things you pour, so this is sort of more old school. It's a mix of Humbrol enamels on the base, straight onto the baseboard, sanded smooth again, and then a couple of coats of gloss varnish. Just gives the customer the ability to refresh it if they ever need to in the future. And if you apply it by hand, you can be quite careful about it soaking up around your scenery as well. And I prefer the finish. It doesn't give a sort of gloss, mirror-like finish, but it's quite often rare for water to be like that. Even a slight breeze will give you a ripple across the surface. So you get a hint of a reflection with the train passing, which is really pleasing when you're sort of looking into the layout. But it's not too contrived. And earlier I mentioned the static grass, and hopefully from this lower angle you can see the variety of colours and lengths as well as we look through the scene. It's really effective, and hopefully gives the feeling of a summer's day, perhaps one of those sort of wet summers that we remember from childhood. I think the mix of the lush foliage at the back and the slightly yellowing but still green grass gives that feel of a summer's day. So turnouts are simply controlled by wire and tube. This one here, I haven't finished actually. I need to snip that off and put a little knob on the end. But yeah, it's hidden by the footbridge. Just connects to the tie bar on the turnout, and the Pico over centre spring gives a nice positive action. So fiddlesticks on this project are just simple pieces of track, and we've got a setup where, I don't know if you can see that, the layout sandwich almost like a tongue as this pushes in. It's quite a tight fit. I've not quite got space to do that now. And then there's just a flying lead that plugs into the power supply on the layout, and it fits the space my customer has. Of course, you could replace these pieces with more complex traverser, cassette system, or a turnout and having two sidings. This kind of choice is yours when you're designing a shelf layout. But exploring this with my customer and his original intention on how to operate it, this seemed perfect. It didn't overcomplicate things. And a very quick look at this end of the layout, and we see the wiring scheme, or the wiring setup. So this connection here is power into the track. The switch is an isolating switch for the siding, so you can leave a train in there, and then the socket here is for the fiddlestick at this end. Lighting is supplied by this 12-volt laptop power supply into the lid. And looking underneath the valance, you can see the usual LED strip. I've actually added a piece of foil, I think, to the inside as well, just to boost the lighting on this one. The sky backscene is from ID Backscenes. They printed them for me specially. They are some of their skies, but printed all in one piece along the roll. It's something they do offer if you get in touch with them as a one-off. It wasn't cheap, but I think the effect without a joint on these Cameo layouts is worth that. So, thanks for watching. I hope you found that enjoyable and interesting and perhaps encouraging, even maybe inspiring for something you're working on yourself or would like to in the future. A lot of the things we talked about here and the ideas covered in my small layout design, well, both the small layout design handbook and the small layout design construction book, which is the follow-up. Both of them are available from Wild Swan. If you want to sit down and work through some of those ideas at your own pace, then obviously I highly recommend you taking a look for those. They should be available from all good railway bookshops, as well as Rails of Sheffield. They stock it as well. So yeah, until next time, I'm sure I'll see you all again soon.